In this penultimate episode of the Billy Ho Show, I take a drive with a few mates, visiting a few places in the South Island. We start on the west coast at a little place called the Kimatua. There's a great little pub there, good accommodation, and of course, thirsts can be quenched. If you're thinking of going to the tunnels, the Kimatua Hotel is a good base. Back in the mid-19th century, about 1886, the gold miners came from the Otago gold fields to the west coast after gold was found there. Just along the road, a few k's from the Kimatua Hotel, is Ohara. The miners made the town of Ohara, and it soon became a little town of about 5,000 people. The miners worked the various rivers around Ohara, including where we're going, a little creek called Noble's Creek. Life in Ohara back in the time would have been pretty tough. Mining for gold would have been a very hard occupation, and once you found some gold, then you had the task of hanging on to it. There would have been one or two unsavoury characters around back then. This brings us to the tunnels, the trip we're about to go on. To get to Noble's Creek from Kimatua, you travel south from the pub over a bridge and then take the first road on the left as you come off the bridge, and that's called Waipuna Road. Travel along Waipuna Road for 2 or 3k until you come to a bridge. Before going over the bridge, there's a little left-hand pullover, and that's where you need to park. To the right of the bridge, there's a gate. Go through the gate and down into Noble's Creek. Then make sure the creek is passable. Unless there's been a huge storm a few days leading up to your little adventure, the creek is usually reasonable. Hello folks, we'll get going. This is Noble Creek, it's called here, and it goes up to a tunnel, probably about 10k up the river, so that's what we're going to do. We've got 5 trucks and 11 intrepid explorers. Go and find out what's up this valley. Beautiful. It's lovely up here and amongst all the beech trees and...
Honestly, I'm just feeling so lucky at the moment.
all these little rivers to cross.
I've never done this, and it's amazing. How could you do it? You can't stop doing this. This is not your last year.
I'm just looking at the water, and the reason why, of course you probably didn't know, but the reason why it's brown, it's called tannin that comes out of the trees and sort of soaks the water. So when it's brown like this, it's normally calm and it's not going to get any much deeper than what it is, but in a raging torrent it's all just white water covered this whole area and going down there at 100 miles an hour. It's just interesting. But our destination is just another 7k up the road, but I thought I'd talk about the water in your tyres.
Did you see the deer?
No,
There were 2 deer on the right-hand side as we came around the first corner. When only young, weren't
Yeah,
they?
no, there was a big one in front of you.
Okay.
Powered
They
off.
went into the bush.
Ah.
I think Linda tried to film it. But I think she got it.
So you see all sorts of things in here. Deer, possums, rats, rabbits, weckers. Haven't seen a kiwi yet. There's a sign, you travel around this country and there's a sign that says, watch for kiwis. And I think 99.999 of the New Zealand population have never ever seen a kiwi in the wild, let alone one on the road.
Yeah.
No, that's. I think they should take those signs down and put them in a zoo. Yes. You got more chance of seeing a kiwi in a zoo than you have on the road. Anyway, that was it. Just sort of behind us is a tunnel, and that tunnel's called Napoleon Tunnel. For some reason, I don't think Napoleon ever came here, but anyway, it's called Napoleon Hill, and that's the tunnel at the bottom of the hill. It's about 100 metres long, and we're going to go through that, and then there's another tunnel further up. You can still see the railway spikes where the railway lines went through when they were doing the gold. But yeah, so we're going to give that a shot. This is the second tunnel, which is probably about 50 metres long, and well, not even be that, but it too was part of the railway trip down to the Noble Creek, which is at the bottom. Great stuff.
What about you, Rama? One more. Yeah, I'll follow it this time.
Well, here I am in the cafe, and it's just like going back to 1950. The chairs of the time, Formica I think it's all called, and the black and white floors. There's Elvis Presley over there, there's a jukebox over there, there's memorabilia behind me, that beautiful montage of cars behind me. There's even an old Dodgem. Remember the Dodgems that they used to show? Boom, boom, boom. Wonderful. And I'm having a big breakfast. It's bacon and eggs. And so if you come here with your group to have a look at the museum, you can sit down and have a wonderful meal before you even start. So look at that. Bacon and eggs, sausages, tomatoes, toast, mushrooms, the whole 9 yards. And a cup of tea to wash it all down. So there you go. When you come here, come and have a meal first and then enjoy yourself in the museum. This is my 1953 Studebaker Land Cruiser Commander V8, and I'm putting it up for sale. One of the unique things about this car is that it came to New Zealand in 1954. Another unique feature with this car is its factory right-hand drive. Being a Land Cruiser means it's about 6 inches longer than a standard sedan, and that makes it pretty special. I understand there was only about 1,700 of these things built all together in 1953. So that makes this car very unique. The engine is a 259 cubic inch, which equates to about 170 horsepower, and its torque is 260 at 2800. This engine goes very, very well. I've owned the car since 2019, and I've driven it to car shows around the country. In the 2022, down to Nelson for the Studebaker Nationals. Linda and I have thoroughly enjoyed this car, but now it's time for somebody else to enjoy. So if you'd like to find out more about this car, how you can purchase it, just give me a call on 027 277 0717 or flick me an email, billhoheper@extra.co.nz. Look forward to hearing from you. We've stopped at the Iron Bridge, which is in Mackenzie country, and this Takapo River is sort of flowing pretty good, and a couple of the guys are going to jump in and just see how they get taken along with the current. So this will be interesting.
Looks so crazy. How was that? Awesome. It was awesome. It was beautiful. Fresh, lovely. Just got to get out of the rip and then you walk back on the stones. How was that?
It was beautiful. Water's way warmer than I thought. Yeah, it's tons of fun.
Our next little adventure is from Arrowtown to a place called Macetown. Macetown doesn't exist anymore apart from a few relics from the old Goldine days from the late 1800s. The Arrow River, you have to check that, make sure that's passable, and you cross it about 30 times, give or take, then up over a bit of a mountain, and then cross some more rivers up over a bit of a mountain, and you arrive at Macetown. It's a great place if you leave at about 9 in the morning, have lunch up there, and then come back in the afternoon. If you'd like to find out how to do that without a four-wheel drive, there are people in Arrowtown and probably Queenstown that arrange four-wheel drive treks to Macetown, so you can actually go there with a chartered four-wheel drive. So we're going to try our luck now and jump in the river and make our way up to Macetown. As you come into Arrowtown, you have to come through the town and go down to a special area where you have access to the river. If you go down into the main car park, there's no way to the river. You have to come back out again and find the way in. It's about 15k from Woe to Go, and you connect with little roads that come out of the river. You find the track on the other side of the river, and you basically get onto it and head up. The pipe is a water pipe, I think. It transports water from A to B. But you're spending a lot of time in the water here, so be prepared. You don't necessarily have to have a snorkel because it's not all that deep, but if it was deeper than this, then a snorkel would be recommended. You can see there's a fair flow on the river there with the trucks going through it. So just to the right hand side of where the truck's disappearing, you come up a bit of a hill, and the hill goes up to about 300 feet, I suppose, then flattens out into this track, and down the left hand side she's a bit of a drop, and Carol, our guest in our truck, refused to look down as we travelled along this bit and I don't really blame her. As I said, it just more or less goes straight down into the Arrow River, and yeah, it's a little bit scary. Then you come to the more or less the other end of this, and it starts to narrow up, and there's bits of road on the left hand side. And then we're coming through this bit of a rocky gap, and we start going down and back into the next part of the river. And here we are in the next part of the river, and Ryan and Rama are in this little ute, and they're really enjoying themselves. And out they come, looking no worse for wear. And these little lupin flowers are quite amazing as you travel along this track. And up ahead of us is the next hill we have to travel over to come to the next part of the river. And then we go again, and young Pat's in there, as well as Barry and Terry with their Toyota. And it's interesting, that Toyota, that was built to compete with the American Hummer. And there's Bob, our mechanic, and he's into the river, and he thoroughly enjoys the water when we get anywhere near it. So we're crossing one last river, we come onto the track, and then we'll basically be heading up to where Macetown used to be. Here's a little extract from the plaque just beside these old workings. It's from a man called Jack Gleason. I worked for a while at Anderson's. He bought that old iron-framed Sunrise battery down from Scanlon's Junction in 1907. It was noisy with the stampers grinding away day and night, crunching the quartz. I'm quite deaf now, down to that. Mostly I was on the blanket tables, like in these drawings. Every hour we'd take up the sacking and wash out the blanketings. That's a fine quartz bits trapped in the sacking after the tailings get washed through the screens. Those blanketings got ground up to release more gold. Wet, heavy work that wasn't too bad in the summer, kept the dust down a bit, but in the winter your hands froze and cracks sore. That job dried up in 1910 because I couldn't get enough water to drive the batteries. Mary had our third child on the way, and times were tight. Many families had left Macetown by then, but we both grew up here and were determined to stay on. 1910. Well, here I am in the cafe, and it's just like going back to 1950. The chairs of the time, Formica I think it's all called, and the black and white floors. There's Elvis Presley over there, there's a jukebox over there, there's memorabilia behind me, that beautiful montage of cars behind me. There's even an old Dodgem. Remember the Dodgems that they used to show? Boom, boom, boom. Wonderful. And I'm having a big breakfast. It's bacon and eggs. And so if you come here with your group to have a look at the museum, you can sit down and have a wonderful meal before you even start. So look at that. Bacon and eggs, sausages, tomatoes, toast, mushrooms, the whole 9 yards. And a cup of tea to wash it all down. So there you go. When you come here, come and have a meal first and then enjoy yourself in the museum. We've just arrived in this little posse, and there's a batch in the rocks here. Behind me is what they call the Poolburn Dam, and the actual dam is just along the road a wee bit. But a lot of people have their batches here, and they enjoy a holiday catching fish in that little lake. You can see the road and the mountains behind basically head over towards Wanaka. Alexandra is down that way, Roxburgh is down that way. And so we're on our way to this church, but I just thought I'd pop in and show you this lake. My vehicle is a 1996 Mitsubishi Challenger, and it's certainly doing the job. It's come all the way from Auckland, and there it is, perfect. To get to the Serpentine Church, you're heading for Old Dunson Road. Once you've got there, it'll take you up past those lakes that we showed you, around past the dam, and up to the top of the hill where you'll come to a pair of double gates. But more about that in a minute. This is an important part of the road. At the top of the hill you'll come to two double gates. The road swings around to the right and the road swings to the left. The road that goes to the left is called the Old Dunson Road, and the road going off to the right is the one that will lead you down to the Serpentine Church, and so that's the one you need to take. Young Carol here is our gate opener, and she's doing a wonderful job. So we'll head off to the right. We've arrived at this little hut, and there's a name on the door, and it says it's the Oliver Byrne Farm Hut. And this is probably about 5k along this road, and we've stopped here for lunch, and everybody's enjoyed a lovely lunch. Inside that little cabin there's a couple of bunks, there's a table, a couple of chairs, and there's even some food. Somebody's left some tins of baked beans and that sort of thing. But so if you walk up here or bike up here, and the weather catches you or you get too cold, you can always stay in this little hut and be very, very cozy. So from here on we carry on. It's probably about another 5 or 6k till we get to that old church, and when we get there we'll have a chat about it. So here we are. Everybody's watered, well fed and ready to go again. Behind me is the Serpentine Church, and in the 1800s there was a population of gold miners up here and a community, and the padre that spoke in this church came from Dunedin. Took him 3 days to get here. Then he'd have his service and berate all the miners who sort of drank in his church because it was the warmest place around. And over the roof you might see the wires that are there to hold the roof on, which gives you an indication on how fast the wind gets up here. But there it is, it's the Serpentine Church, and as I said, it's a relatively easy road to get in here, and if you take the same road out, that's fine. But what we're going to do, there's a track over that way that takes us out to the Lake Onslow Road. And when we get out onto the Lake Onslow Road, we'll turn left and head towards Ranfurly. So, yeah, that's us, the Serpentine Church. Now here's a little lesson in four-wheel driving. This young lady's taken her little Suzuki for a drive and thought she could get through this little puddle in this gap here, but got bellied, and you can see she's covered in mud, and so is the vehicle, and she's been under it trying to put something under the wheels to push and shove and trying to get herself out of that situation. And as luck would have it, we've come along to rescue her. So she's going to jump back in the Jeep now, and Pat's put the rope on the back, and Bob's got it hooked up to his truck so he'll pull her out backwards. But a little lesson, if you're going four-wheel driving by yourself, is you have to be absolutely careful. If you've got a mate that's got a four-wheel drive, a pair of you should go. But if you do go on your own, a lot of people do, you have to be absolutely careful. It's about a 10 or 12 hour walk out to Roxburgh, which is the nearest little town for this young lady, so we've come along just in the nick of time.